final Monday night game, or the second Monday night game. It's actually the first game to kick off because of that 9 p.m. start time for Arizona. But Baltimore, Tampa Bay should be a good one. It's a 3.5-point favorite for the Ravens, 49.5 total. That was 48.5. I just to kind of preview, I took the over on that earlier this week. And I think this game is going to be a high-scoring, back-and-forth game where both teams are looking to attack through the air. And since Todd Bowles has been in Tampa Bay, we've seen that teams just don't want to run on the Bucs. Lowest run rate against their defense of any team in the NFL since Todd Bowles took over in 2019. A lot of that is kind of structural, right? Todd Bowles wants to put resources to defending the run, but you've also got guys like Vita Vea up there clogging the middle and Levante David at linebacker, and they've just been a good run defense for the last couple of years. Not as much the case this year. They've been a little bit more susceptible there, but I think there's still a pass funnel aspect to their defense. And then when you look at Baltimore, they have some of the biggest pass run splits of any team in the NFL just based on if they're leading or if they're trailing. When they're trailing, 26%, fourth lowest in the NFL. When they're tied or leading, 55%, third highest in the NFL. And I've kind of been on that with Derrick Henry props at times over the first couple weeks of the season. But I think this is a spot where Tampa Bay could have success through the air, given what we've seen from their offense. They've been really successful on the first 15 plays of the game, so kind of those scripted plays. They have the second highest success rate on those plays of any offense in the NFL this season, behind only the Lions. So I think Liam Cohen is getting them into good situations early. I think they're going to have success through the air, and that creates a situation where Baltimore, in turn, looks to attack Tampa Bay through the air, and I think they'll have success there too. So I kind of like this high-scoring back-and-forth affair with these two offenses.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a way to play this game. I guess my counter-argument here would be that the Ravens have done a terrific job stopping the run. They're virtually best in any run defense metric, and Baker Mayfield is particularly sensitive to obvious passing situations. In non-obvious passing situations, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. In these obvious passing situations, he's well below league average. His sack rate spikes. He's got like a bottom 7 pass rate there. And I think if the Ravens can, and that's kind of one of the main differences, by the way, when looking at the Tampa Bay offense this year as opposed to last year, and everyone was saying, myself included, like it's probably not going to be sustainable. Baker Mayfield's third down play last season, which does go a little bit against the obvious passing situation stuff here. And like he's going to take many more sacks. His last season, his pressure to sack rate was like 10% better than it had been in his career, and it has regressed to his previous career averages. But one of the main differences this year is that they've been really able to establish a run game, and no one's been able to run on Baltimore. So I think if you see a lot of these situations, a lot of these kind of third and longs, I can see the Ravens stopping the Bucs offense, taking a bunch of sacks, and then they can go to this style of like really grinding at the run game. And we even saw this with Tampa Bay against the Broncos. When they got into this negative game script, Baker Mayfield just could not come back. And I think there's a legitimate possibility of that script happening again. Though we can also see Tampa Bay, as you said, like Liam Cohen is doing a great job getting themselves in good situations. They might not necessarily need to rely on the ground game. And if anything, you hear all the time of like you run the ball to set up a play action pass. You can also pass to set up the run, and you kind of have to draw the safeties back and get yourself some lighter boxes. Maybe then they can establish a ground game. But the Ravens are a house on offense right now. I don't think anyone's stopping them. If they want to run on the Bucs, I think they'll have no problem to do that because the Ravens basically buck every trend by virtue of, like, number one, how good of a rusher Lamar Jackson is, and then, like, the gravity he pulls. You add in Derrick Henry to this. They're just creating so many running holes, and their yards before contact are great. I think they're going to score. And then it's a question of, like, can Tampa kind of keep up with them? And I'm not so sold on that front. So I think your points are all well taken. I think there's a really clear path to this game shooting out. But I also see a kind of like more so a Ravens 2021 type of game. And I guess the last thing here, I'm rambling a bunch. The last thing here I'll say is I think the Ravens pass defense has been pretty bad. They've also faced a gauntlet of opposing teams, and it's like almost the inverse of what we were talking about with the Chargers. And I think this unit's probably a little bit better. I don't think they're great, but they show up like in a lot of metrics. I think it's a little bit closer to the middle of the pack, and perhaps that's not valued properly by the market.
Yeah, no, the run defense part for the Ravens is a very good point because they have one of our highest graded defensive lines in the NFL this year, and a big part of that is the run defense. Nnamdi Madubuike, really good player. Travis Jones has taken a massive leap on the interior next to him in his third season out of UConn. Michael Pierce is still an immovable object in the middle of that defensive line. So they've got Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Oweh, throw them in there on the edge. Like they have a really good front that allows them to play all these too high coverages. They're 50% too high coverage, sixth highest in the NFL. And they can do that because these guys up front are winning, right? And they're still an elite run defense because of it. The angle I want to attack, if I'm thinking the Bucs kind of keep pace with them through the air, and this is a back and forth game, I am going to be all over Chris Godwin just because of that too high note that I mentioned. The Ravens are towards the top of the league in too high coverages, and you see these really big splits between Chris Godwin and Mike Evans when you get single high versus when you get too high. Single high, Mike Evans is a little bit better than Chris Godwin in terms of yards per out run because he wins those one-on-ones on the outside at such a high level. When you get these too high coverages, he's been bottom 10 at wide receiver this year in terms of yards per out run, 0.84. Chris Godwin's up in the top 5 at wide receiver at 2.95, and he's really had the best start to his career so far this season with Liam Cohen coming in as offensive coordinator. You have him in the slot. It's kind of that Rams slot receiver role. Super high volume player, makes tough catches over the middle of the field, really good after the catch. And if Tampa Bay is going to put up points in this game, he's going to be a big part of it. And just to summarize, I don't really have a lean on the side because I can see Baltimore in that script you were talking about, getting out to a lead and leaning on the run game because Tampa hasn't been as good there. But I'm going to bet on this kind of being that back and forth high scoring game. So I bet over 48.5. I like Chris Godwin overs. I like Mike Evans unders. In that situation, I like Derrick Henry unders as well and Zay Flowers overs, kind of with the assumption that if the Ravens are either it's a tied game or they're a little bit behind, you're going to lean into the pass more. And Zay Flowers has been great the last couple weeks. Really twitchy dude who can create separation and get open over the middle of the field, where Lamar is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at throwing with touch over the middle and leading receivers working horizontally. I think there's going to be opportunities for Flowers in that capacity in this matchup.